So we've kind of started to develop this idea of domain and range. Another way to look at it is, depending on what they give us, we're going to take different steps to find the domain and the range, realizing domain is input, range is output. So for example, if we're given an XY table that describes a function or a correspondence, or even a list of points, our domain is our X values and our range would be our Y values, because range is what would be outputted or depends on X, our domain, or our independent variable. For example, if we are given an f of x function equals some function, then our domain, let's say x plus 2, just for example, our domain is what we input. So we're going to input some value of x into this function. It goes over here, substitutes for x, and it gets cranked through or put through whatever operations it says to do on it. Depending on that, it's going to output this f of x, which is our range. So depending on what we can put in, we'd call that our domain. Whatever comes out depending on that domain, we call our range. Another way we could see domain and range is given a graph. So for example, we have a graph of some function. Our x-axis is our domain. Our y-axis is our range. Now, a hint or a trick at doing it when it's a coordinate plane, I like to think about my domain from left to right. So where does my function start and where does my function stop? In terms of the range, I go from bottom to top. So given a graph like this, I would tell the domain, hey, my function starts here and goes until here. My function starts here and goes until here in the range. A last way we could see domain and range is in application problems, when we're actually putting things into practice. In this case, the domain is what answers make sense. What we can actually input that makes sense. So for example, you have a shape, you're trying to decide what sizes to make the different parts of the shape, say a cube for example. You can't have negative numbers or negative lengths, and so our domain would be positive values, because it doesn't make sense to have negative numbers put in. Our range is what the outputs come out based on the domain. These change depending on the situation and what our domain is.